It's time now for Countywide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Join Paul David and Jen Cohen as they talk with our community's leaders, newsmakers, and people in the know. You'll hear about the hot topics that affect all our lives in Yavapai County. And now, here's today's Countywide.
Welcome to Countywide. I'm Paul David. As always, it is great to have you in studio with us today. Conrad Jackson from the Prescott Fire Department, paramedic and engineer. Welcome back to studio.
Great, thank you. Glad to be here.
Cityofprescott.net is where they can go to find information about the Prescott Fire Department.
Prescott Fire Department and everything else city related.
And everything else city related. Now, a couple weeks back, you sent me a press release, and I called you and we talked about it. On Smoke Tree Lane, you have a fire station there.
We do.
And there were some issues. There have been issues, and you guys are trying to resolve the issues, and I did a story with you on it, but I thought this would be a good time to have you come in and talk all things fire-related when it comes to emergency vehicles and emergency personnel, whether they're on the side of the road, in the road, no matter what they're doing. There's certain things that us as the motoring public need to do to keep you safe and keep ourselves safe as well.
Yeah, to fix my job safer, I'm happy to come here and talk about it.
Right, yeah. And I asked Conrad, I said, do you want to come and do a show on this? And he, of course, said, yeah. Tell me when and where, and I'll be there. So the story was that on Smoke Tree Lane, you have to back the fire stations into the fire station.
Right.
But you have to be out in the road. And the road, it travels in front of the fire station, and it leads to a residential area. And people just are not stopping when the fire truck is out there.
Yeah, so 3 of our stations are what we call back-in stations.
Okay.
In a perfect world, we would have fire stations that had a big enough footprint that the fire engine would be able to circle the entire facility, drive through a back bay, and then exit out the front bay to get out into traffic.
That's the preferred.
That's the preferred. It's safer. Mm-hmm. It's safer, but
Sure.
it eats up a large footprint, and some of our stations were put in place basically on the graces of the developer in the area, and so they gave us pieces of land that weren't necessarily really conducive to having fire stations.
Okay.
As a result, we have to back in. Okay. So we have 3 stations that are like this. One's on Lee Boulevard, so kind of right across from Trader Joe's up there by Discount Tire. Heavy traffic, especially now that there's a adult facility up on top of the hill, so lots and lots of traffic and going into Yavapai Hills.
Okay.
So they have to back into their station. Station 74, which is my station on Smoke Tree, we have to back into that station. And then at the airport, it's a little lower traffic area, but Station 73, they also have to back into theirs. And I mean, by and large, just picture backing into your own driveway every single time that you're going to have to park at your house.
With a massive
that you're
truck.
always going to back in. So yes, you got a vehicle that's 25 plus foot long, 33 foot long.
Size of a single wide mobile home?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Put that in your head. Think about that. Back in a single wide mobile home up into a garage. Okay.
So just to give you an idea of how bad things got on Smoke Tree.
Okay.
Picture this: you're going to back into your driveway, and as you're backing in, somebody drives behind you to try to squeeze in behind your back tailgate or the trunk of your car and your driveway and shoot through as you're backing in. We kept on having this happen over and over again.
So weird.
Yeah, so initially we just put up signage that said, and there was a big white line across the road that said, "Wait here for emergency vehicles." Now mind you, we turn on all of our E-lights, all the emergency.
So you're lit
Absolutely.
up. You're lit up. The lights are flashing.
The lights are flashing.
Okay.
We try to give every indication.
Okay.
And then typically, anytime we back up a fire truck, because it is a kind of a dangerous thing, they got a lot of blind spots associated with them. We always have the firefighter get out. The engineer's the driver. The captain's in what would be the front. Would be the front right seat is where the captain sits, and the firefighter's in the back seat.
Okay.
Anytime we back up, we stop the vehicle, the firefighter gets out, gets behind the vehicle and double checks, make sure there's nothing that we're going to hit,
Sure.
Gives some guidance to the driver as they're coming back. We had to quit doing that at those 3 stations because we would have a firefighter get out and go to walk behind the engine to go guide the engine, and we would have a vehicle shoot behind the engine,
Wow.
Up onto our apron even, and we almost killed a couple firefighters that way. So anymore, we turn on the E-lights and turn sideways in the road and block traffic as best we can and then back in. But even with signage that says fire station up ahead and literally wait here, and there's a big white line, wait here for the fire truck, they were still driving through. So we added the extra indicator lines on the road just to draw even more attention to it, just as a safety factor.
Real quick, the picture's coming up on the TV screen, but to describe it for people who are listening on the radio, it is like a crisscross white pattern that runs between those two signs right across in front of the fire station.
That is,
right?
it's
Okay.
yeah.
Huge, great big white lines that crisscross. It's like, how could you not notice that there's something going on here on this road?
And even though we've done this, and this has been in place for a couple weeks now, we still are having people drive in. You try to be as nice as you can about it. So we get the vehicle turned sideways and we'll look out, and sure enough, some vehicle has followed us even into our maneuver as we're starting to turn and try to back in. And I'll say, you get out, and, ma'am, do you realize there's signs here that say, you know, this is my conversation 2 days ago, ma'am, do you realize there's signs there that say you need to stop there? And she said, well, I didn't realize you were backing up. I'm like, all of our... all of our lights are on. She should have been back 500 foot because our lights were on.
That's where my next question for you right here is, if I see an emergency vehicle, a fire truck, ambulance, police car, SWAT, YCSO, any vehicle that's got its lights on, my job is to stop, is it not?
It is. Now,
I mean, unless it's on the side of the road, it's off the side of the road, and
right.
we know that there's markers and stuff like that. But if I see you in a fire truck sitting in the middle of a road and your lights are flashing, odds are I should probably stop and figure out what's going on.
Yeah, you should be slowing down at a bare minimum and determining what's going on. I mean, if it's in front of a firehouse, it should be pretty much a clear indicator of what's going on. But yeah, so now you're talking about a couple different things. You know, how do you behave as a driver when you look up in the rearview mirror and there's some kind of emergency vehicle, be it law enforcement, fire, or ambulance, coming up behind you with their sirens and their lights going? And I kind of wish we had dash cams in our engines so we could show some of the aberrant behavior of drivers that occurs. Ultimately, me, as the operator for my engine, I'm always going to pass you on the left. I'm going to always work that way. So at a minimum, you should be slowing down and trying to stop safely.
Get as far over to the right as I can.
And then in some cases where you've got multiple lanes of traffic, you can't necessarily get over to the right because maybe there's a vehicle next to you, so it's not safe to do so. And again, we see people they look up, they see it, and they just instantly panic and they yard their wheel over, and then now they're making another vehicle. It's just, be a situational awareness, paying attention to your surroundings, slowing down, coming to a stop, preferably getting out of the way. In some areas, I've got room to maneuver. It's a big fire truck. Mm-hmm. Some areas I've got room to maneuver, but sometimes when we're in, like 2 lanes of traffic, it gets a little tighter, so it's really helpful if you pull over to the right.
Ideally, if we're all stopped, that's a lot less for you to have to pay attention to, other than making sure you have to weed through there and get through.
Absolutely.
If we're all stopped, that means that this is all out of the way. We're just now structures, and you can make your way through, and then we can proceed forward. It's as easy as that, right?
It would be as easy as that, but you have people that will, they say there's 5 lanes, there's a turn lane in the middle. I'll be kind of straddling the turn lane and what would be the leftmost lane as I'm progressing, and I'll have people dive into the median thinking, well, I'm going to get out of his way, and that's not helpful to me. You should be going to the right to pull out of my way, not diving to the left. And so, again, that causes problems. And I think there's some confusion in that because there's a law that if you are driving and you come upon a scene where we've got everything, yes, the move over law, so where we've got everything off the side of the road and we're treating a patient or an officer may be given a citation or something like that.
Sure.
That law says go left.
Right.
So you're trying to create that lane of buffer. Mm-hmm. So I think some people get a mixed signal like, well, I thought I was supposed to go left when I see the emergency vehicle. Well, not if they're on the side of the road. Yes, you go left, but if I'm trying to get around
But if you're responding, it'd be best to have everybody just go to the right as far as you can. But again,
right.
the move over law is out there. So if you see stuff on the right-hand side, even if it's me with a flat tire and I got my flashers on, you want to move over as far as you can to the left and get over that way. We got to take a break, okay? Prescott Fire Department paramedic engineer Conrad Jackson is in studio today. Stick around. Countywide, we'll be back in just a couple minutes.
appears these hot ashes are about to be dumped, which could possibly start a wildfire. How will Smokey deal with such a hot situation? The garden hose defense. Next, a thorough stir. Then another spray. And finally, feeling if the ashes are cool.
Oh, yeah.
Ah, yes, the selfie. A ritual practiced so frequently with this tribe, but not so much by Smokey Bear.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Making was a big part of the foundation of what I wanted my children to do and to have fun with.
Growing up in the Bushnell house was like nutty professor craziness. I know, that's true.
Getting burned on a hot glue gun, that was okay. You know, burning themselves with a soldering iron, that was okay.
I was 6 when I learned how to solder.
We learned how to paint, we learned how to sheetrock, and all these things had such lasting impact.
I felt that creativity would give them entree into being able to do anything they wanted.
Whatever we showed our dad, it was always the coolest thing in the world to him.
Good ideas are very often considered silly at their onset.
And by that definition, we haven't even really grown up, you know? I mean, the projects have just gotten bigger.
We all make and have fun. Now the question is, why do you make?
Share your own Why I Make story today. Visit whyimake.org.
Welcome back to Countywide. Prescott Fire Department engineer and paramedic Conrad Jackson is in studio today. You can find out Prescott Fire and anything about the City of Prescott at cityofprescott.net is the website. We want to go jump back into the station 74, I believe is station 74 on Smoke Tree Lane. What are we going to do to get people to... Well, does Prescott PD come out there and ever kind of hang out and try to catch people doing it?
Periodically, yeah. But obviously the issue is only when the engine is coming and going.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So as far as speed and traffic flow and stuff like that, yes, the officers come by and hang out every once in a while, but
if you're not responding or coming back from something, then
right, it doesn't.
Nothing's happening.
So, but that doesn't change the law. So just like, because there's signage there that says wait here, it's a moving violation to actually cross that line while that fire engine's there backing into the bay or pulling out of the bay. That's a $190 fine plus points on your license. So now that we've got that extra signage in the road, we've been trying to communicate to folks and remind it. It's always been the case.
Sure.
It's just, it really should be on people's radar to wait until the engine clears and turns off its lights. Because me personally, I've been at that particular station for about a year and just almost a year and a half now. And on 3 different occasions, I have had this scenario happen. I'm backing in, I'm in the process of backing in, somebody encroaches on the engine, and I get toned out for my next call.
Oh.
So that driver has made the assumption that, oh, they're backing into the bay. As soon as their bumper's clear, I'm going. Unbeknownst to them, I just got dispatched to a heart attack, a car wreck, whatever it is, and now they're in my way. And so 3 times in the last year and a half, and that's just me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I only work a third of the days of the year.
And you told me before the show you've got 3 shifts, A, B, and C.
Yeah, so there's a B shift and a C shift that are dealing with the same kinds of issues.
There are plenty of these stories, basically, huh?
Yeah, so we keep track of this stuff, and we notify risk management with the city that this is an issue and an ongoing issue. So, we try to do it in a progressive approach, and hopefully we can get the drivers out there recognizing what's going on and providing the safety to both us and them. Mm-hmm. So I hope that it doesn't come to something further where we have to start putting up some kind of stoplight. That's a main artery, so We would rather not have to put stoplights up to block traffic.
Past the station, what's back there? I think you'd mentioned to me when we were doing the story on this, it's mostly residential, right? It's just
when that station was built, it was a dead-end street for all intents and purposes. There were, maybe 20 houses past that station. Well, now the entire Prescott Lakes community is back there. And then in addition to that, on the far end of the Prescott Lakes community and at the far end of Smoke Tree is Basis School. So there's a whole cadre of families that are now utilizing Smoke Tree to take their kiddo to school. So that's increased the traffic flow on there even more. It's, like I said, it's a main artery through the northern half of Prescott.
Wow.
So lots and lots of traffic. We just need drivers to really pay attention to what they're doing.
Okay, well, we ran the story. We got you here today talking about it, so maybe it'll work. We'll see. We'll see. There's other things that come up, and you want to talk, you had a couple of points you wanted to make about the roadside stopping as well.
Yeah, well, talking about people paying attention to what they're doing, I read an interesting survey the other day. People actually admitting to this, that when they see a scene on the side of the road and they're getting ready to pass it, 30% of those individuals that were surveyed admitted to pulling out their phones and taking pictures as they drive by. I have no idea what they're attempting to capture in doing so, but they're taking their eyes off the road and they're trying to photograph some tragic moment that's occurring on the side of the road potentially. And it's mind-blowing to me that people driving a 3,000 pound or plus vehicle on the side of the road are not making driving that lethal weapon their highest priority.
Yeah. And
it's terrifying. And so, as an example, I get notifications on my phone. It's called Firefighter Close Calls, and it's also called the Firefighter Secret List. And they send out notifications every single time there's some kind of workplace tragedy associated with firefighters. And so every couple days, I get notifications of a firefighter that dies in the line of duty. Just in the last couple months, we have had multiple fire apparatus hit while they're parked on scenes and had vehicles just drive right into the scene and collide with the fire truck. Sadly, and just 3 days ago, one of those collisions resulted in the firefighter having his leg amputated.
Oh, wow. And
that is a repeat of what happened just a couple months ago.
That was Phoenix, right?
No, the loss of the leg and the one just from a couple days ago. You're talking about the actual
where the family
crash.
Yeah, the family died and the firefighters were seriously injured.
The one I'm talking about. The one that just happened a couple days ago was in Atlanta.
Okay.
And then a couple months ago was in Virginia.
Okay.
In the one in Virginia, they had pulled up. The captain steps out, the other firefighter starts stepping out, and the captain looks back and he sees that they are getting ready to get nailed. And he goes and he pushes his guys back into the engine. The vehicle ends up colliding with the engine, kills the captain, one of the firefighters, and he's just at the beginning of his career, ends up losing his leg. Wow. He was actually in town a couple days ago.
And it all could have been avoided. And if we were just paying attention to what
people were paying better attention to their surroundings.
Yeah.
And
distracted driving, it's a huge issue.
It is.
I had DPS in here a few weeks ago talking about it.
Right. Yeah. The number of, like I wrote the numbers down. In 2017, we had 9 firefighters killed, struck by traffic. We had 38 law enforcement officers struck and killed.
Wow.
In traffic. And the average, if you take it out over several years, is 5 firefighters a year get killed, 12 law officers, and 60 transportation workers. So APS, construction guys,
people out working on stuff.
Right, and tow truck drivers, stuff like that. 60 of them are getting nailed while out doing their duties.
Took another break. Prescott Fire Department paramedic engineer Conrad Jackson is in studio today. We're going to take a quick 2-minute break, and Countywide will be back.
This is Bruce Morrow, Transportation Manager for Cottonwood Area Transit. Remember, we cover the entire Verde Valley and Sedona. Cottonwood Area Transit has you covered wherever you want to ride in the Verde Valley, all day, every day. Take Cottonwood Area Transit through Clarkdale, Verde Village, and from 26 locations in Cottonwood. With Verde Links, it's a quick and easy trip to Sedona every day. Don't forget our connectors to Camp Verde. Visit cottonwoodaz.gov for Cottonwood Area Transit and take a seat. Let's go ride.
How I define making? In the broadest possible terms, it is making something extant in the world that didn't exist. Everybody who's ever made anything is bringing something into fruition for a reason, and that act in and of itself makes us stewards of our culture. It's something that we're talking about. It's a response. Actually, it's telling a story. That's really what it is. And I include everything that could be made: painting, sculpture, welding, all of that.
Yellow is positive.
When a kid gets their hands on the world and learns that they can make their fantasy play, that they can make their reality, that's power. And as far as I'm concerned, everyone should feel that kind of power. There we go. If there's something that interests you to bring into the world, that's fantastic. Go figure out how to do it. Go tell your own story. There it is. And so I want to know why you make. Let's go.
Share your own Why I Make story today. Visit whyimake.org.
150 over 90.
180 over 111.
160 over 110. I had a stroke.
This is what high blood pressure looks like. You might not feel its symptoms, but the results from a stroke are far from invisible or silent. If you've come off your treatment plan, get back on it, or talk with your doctor to create an exercise, diet, and medication plan that works for you. Go to loweryourhbp.org.
If I would have followed a treatment plan, I would not be in this situation.
Welcome back to Countywide. We've got just a few minutes left in the program. Thought we'd ask Conrad how things are going. It's been an amazing winter. Prescott had an amazing winter.
Oh, and a beautiful spring.
And spring has been, I mean, here we are. We're getting ready to drop back down in temperature again. Yeah. There's been no real major wildfires yet so far this year in the state.
Knock on wood, right?
Knock on wood, and this is real wood. But how are things looking around the edge of Prescott? I know Prescott National Forest has been doing some burning down by Groom Creek and stuff like that. I know there's mitigation work being done around the city of Prescott. How is it looking out there?
There's always mitigation work that needs to be done. People ask me, are things going to burn? And the answer is always, things will always burn. So if it's a mild winter with very little moisture, then it's going to be more the woods that are going to burn. But when we get a splendid winter like this with so much moisture and then ongoing temperatures like we've got going right now, heavy grass growth. Crazy grass. I don't know if you remember the Cave Creek fire a few years ago when we had a fire that ran literally all the way from Cave Creek up to the Verde Valley.
Oh, yeah.
That's this kind of year. Mm-hmm. So heavy grass growth. And what people fail to realize is how fast that stuff dries out. We call that a 1-hour fuel. So once we quit getting these nice little impulses of cooler, moisture weather, that stuff's going to dry out really fast. And we have all the overburden from the previous years, all the leftover stuff that never went away. So you put those two together, you got that low grass that's already cured. This stuff starts curing out. About the biggest benefit that we've got going for us along those lines is that the window at least will be smaller. Because a lot of times when we start drying out by the end of April, that leaves us dead in the water for all of May, all of June, until the monsoons really start getting seeded in here. So that's 2 months of danger time. With this moisture, hopefully we'll just be looking at mostly June. Mm-hmm. But expect grass fires out of the gates. The Forest Service is doing a lot of mitigation work, as they always do, really trying to create a robust safety buffer. That way, if we do have something horrid come up out of, say, the Hacienda drainage.
Well, the Indian fire was a big scare for Prescott.
Right.
The Indian fire was a huge scare.
And subsequent to that, now we've got buffers in place where we've tried to create breaks in the fuels, and they're just constantly trying to mitigate that with control burns and mechanical work. They bring in devices that come in and shred a bunch of the brush and reduce the content. Thing is, that stuff grows back.
Sure.
And so it's a constant battle against it in anywhere from a 5 to a 10-year cycle, depending on the slope and aspect and stuff like that.
It's a big yard to mow.
It is a huge yard to mow, and the Forest Service suffers the same issues, as far as manning and folks that can get out there and do that. So it's a constant battle for them, and so they're constantly having to mitigate what they can, and they look at the priority list and see what they can take care of the highest items first.
We're out of time.
We are. That's
We're
a
out of
shame.
time. That's it. I know, but Conrad tells me he's the historian for the Prescott Fire Department,
am.
and he wrote an Arcadia book. So you're going to come back and give us a historical picture
I love that.
of the Prescott Fire Department. I think that would be really interesting. So Prescott Fire Department Paramedic Engineer Conrad Jackson, thank you for all you do.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks
on
for being here today. That is today's Countywide. As always, thanks for watching, listening, and we will talk to you again next time.